Hi, my name is Alexis.
And I'm Anna.
And I'm Evelyn.
I'm Victoria.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to the Marmalade Mermaids present Our Flag Means Survival, Season 2, Episode 1, Impossible Birds.
Well, that brings us to the final portion. No, not the final. The next portion of our episode, where we're going to do a practice called Lectio Divina. It's where we have the script of the episode that we watched, Season 2, Episode 1, Impossible Birds. And at random, we are going to select a line of text. We're going to look at this text in 4 different ways. The first way is literally what is happening in that scene. The second way is to say what is happening in this and what are the words that are being said and the images that are calling of in a cultural way. What other kind of things does this remind me of that are mythological, cultural, something like that. The third way we're going to look at this line of text is to say, what does this remind me of in my own life and rub up against that I personally experienced? And the fourth way we're going to look at it is to say, what does this line of text, thinking about it in all these different ways, call me to do and put into action, even if it's just intention?
Someone pick a number between 1 and 335.
125.
The line is, Auntie says, he dumped you. Just before this, Alawande says, you dumped him. And then just after, so we have, like, Alawande says, you dumped him. Steve says, I didn't dump him. And Alawande says, you dumped him. And then Auntie laughs in the background, he dumps you. And then Steve says, no, we're on a break. So that's the line.
So what is literally happening in that scene? I know Alexis gave us some context with before and after, but just set the scene for me.
Olawande and Steed are talking, and Olawande is asking Steed, why are we still here? Why haven't we moved on? And then Olawande asks to Steed, are you afraid to see Ed, to see Blackbeard? And Steed says, no, no, no. And then it gets into this semantics between, was it a breakup? Was it dumping? Who dumped who? And they're at the soup stall where Susan and Auntie are there, and they're overhearing this. So then everyone kind of jumps in about, like, between Ed and Steed, where is it a breakup? Was it a dump? And so this is Auntie's line saying, he dumped you, meaning Ed dumped Steed.
Well done. That was really good. We might need some time to think, but what does this remind us of?
Friends. Ross and Rachel. Did they break up? Did they not break up? Were they on a break? And I think that's totally intentional here on the writer's part. I think it's supposed to absolutely be this comparison to Ross and Rachel, and we were on a break, and who?
I don't know if anyone could ever use the, like, we were on a break and not have it ever connect back to that. It's so iconic.
Exactly.
It also then makes me think of Ghosts, which is directly referencing Friends, where it's the two characters, and one says, we were on a respite. That's like, they're obviously looking at that again, just makes me think of that, different ways to kind of play that same line.
Yeah. It also makes me think of, which I am not in the loop on how things operate these days, but apparently situationships are a thing. And I feel like this could also be like, yeah, get this, Anna. It's your status of your relationship. So if it's like, are you in a relationship? We're in a situationship. And apparently, at least from what I'm trying to glean, is it's like you're not committed, but you're like seeing each other, and maybe you're hooking up, and like maybe you could like you're like talking, but it's totally a thing. I'm still trying to suss out exactly what it means. But that's also what this makes me think of is like situationships, which is where people are these days, because God forbid we like commit to each other and say that we're in relationships with each other. We have to come up with situationship. I'm sorry to our listenership. If you're in a situationship, good luck. That's also makes me think of like, what is the status of the relationship? And I feel like, and actually that's even like, I would say that's in like the last year or so. And so I think they could have totally thrown that in the show like today. And I could totally see Steve saying, we're in a situationship right now. We're still connected to each other, but we're not broken up and we're not officially together.
To me, I initially thought of Dido and Aeneas. So that's not a current cultural reference, but it's certainly one. So to say it quickly, Aeneas is uh kind of he hoodwinks Dido into like taking care of him at Carthage. And she does. She like, here's my kingdom. And she's like made to fall in love with Aeneas a little bit and also his kid. And because Ascanius is cute and she doesn't have that. And then Aeneas was like, oh, I have to go off and like keep doing what the gods want me to do, which I believe is help find Rome, right? So he leaves. And yeah, I think there's this situation where Dido, and I don't know if it's been so long ago. I probably in high school last time I read this, but it was her sister or her maidservant or somebody. They're just having this conversation about Aeneas, and she's like, "You just need to purge him from your life." She's like, "But maybe he'll come back," and she's like, "No, girl, we got to get rid of it." And so they make this pyre of all of the things that Aeneas has ever touched or been with, and like in true tragic form, like Dido falls on the pyre and dies, like burns herself. But the reason why I don't know, we don't want this to happen to Ed and Steed, and thankfully we know it doesn't in season 2. But the one of the reasons why this story has always stuck with me is because Aeneas at another point has to go down to Hades, and he sees like all the future people that are going to live in Rome, and like, see, you got to get on your journey again. And he sees Dido there, and as a high school teenager, this was so cool. But he's like, "Hi, Dido, you're here." And then he's like, "Wait a minute, why are you here?" And she's in the section where like people are who have killed themselves, and he like wants to engage with her, and she just like looks at him, looks off. "You might have dumped me, but I am doing just fine down here in Hades." So it's a weird reference, but it's what it reminds me of.
I like it.
A very famous dumping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What does it remind us of? Oh, you had another one, Anna?
Well, no, it's not a remind me of. It's I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like who actually dumped who? Like how do we define what happened? Was it a dump? Was it a break? I'm talking about Steve and Ed.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this is the place to have that conversation, but
That's why Steve says that. I think you're right. That's why he says that.
yeah, like we're taking a break. I don't know, but was it a break? Is that what Steve? I don't think Steve intended a break, and so now to like rewrite it and be like, no, it was a break. Was it a break? He was. I don't know. Anyway,
He never left him.
he never left. No, that's why it's so hard because it's like, well, but also what you did, and I'm on Steve's. I'm on Steve's team, but I'm also too like. Is that? I don't know if there's a better word for what that was that you did. I don't know.
We don't. I guess that's a good point. A good point because we don't know. Like if Mary had had open arms, what would Steve have done?
And that was my thinking. That's where it's coming from. Thank you for articulating that part that's not being said of like, if it had turned out differently with Mary, if Doug had, if would you still have made this choice? Or would you have been like, well, that was an interesting thing that I tried. I don't know.
Yeah. Was he just like going to check on how things were going and then he was going to go hop back out to the sea? Or was he like returning to his old life?
Well, and there's no communication there.
Right.
So like Ed has no idea what his motives were.
Ghosted.
We don't know.
It's a
Heck, he
ghosting.
doesn't know.
Yeah, it's not a dump.
Yeah.
It's a ghost. Like you ghosted him. Like and then
ghosted each other.
Well, I don't think what Ed did was ghosting. Ed did like burning all of your stuff and then trying to like abandon your crew. I think like there's a different word for what Ed did to the ship.
Well, but I mean, it's like we go back in time to when it first happened. Like Ed just sat there at the pier. Like I get it. Like if you want to be with me, you have to come to me. But he didn't go like, "Oh my gosh, Steed is like a gentleman pirate. Is he like lost in the forest?" He didn't go back and say like, "Hey guard, you were going to wake Steed up. What happened?" So that the guard could be like, "Actually, I was trying to take care of this crazy person." Or actually, Steed had a fever dream and walked out and was hallucinating and the gun went off. Like there was no investigating. So it's hard for me for us to like always take up. I know we love Ed, but we take up this like when Ed left with Calico Jack, like, but he never left. Like Steed in his heart, I don't think he felt like he ever left Ed. And there wasn't communication on either of their sides when they left each other. Because for me, I would not be in any part of that relationship. I'd be like, you left me. I felt abandoned, and now we're done because you're dead to me. So, but I have my own unhealthy things to work on. So I just feel like it's weird that after the whole thing with Nigel, nope, with Chauncey, that Steve didn't go look for Ed, and he just made this mad dash off to Barbados or wherever his family is. And it's weird to me too that Ed just sat there for hours. And it's very romantic, right? But that he didn't go do an investigating, like, hey, you okay? What's going on, bud? And I, and then further burns all his stuff and tries to abandon his crew.
It was the crappy first draft.
Yeah.
He stuck with it. Okay, it's a little off topic, but years and years ago, there was a TV show called Life in Pieces that I really like. And one of the things I remember very distinctly is they set up this situation that was perfect for like a classic misunderstanding. And you just knew that like things are going to go wrong because they're not communicating. And the girlfriend just turns to the guy and like, no, that's not what I meant. Like she cleared it up like a human being would, and it didn't become anything. It was so refreshing to see in a TV show that they didn't play it up for this, like, oh, I know what's going to come. And so, yeah, like in real life, we probably would do a little investigating or we would try to send a message, but maybe it's just because it's a TV show.
That's true. That's fair. How would it have worked differently if they had phones or had just talked to each other or, you know?
It could have been similar. I could totally see somebody not getting a reply, like a text. Like you said, hey, you up? And you don't get a reply, and you're like, well, they're done with me. Because the crappy first draft. Now I'm gonna keep coming back to that. Because yeah, you're the story that you're gonna fill in is like, you know, the worst possible reason and justification. I would do that. Like if I was sitting there and thought I said things were explicit. We had a plan. I got a boat. We're gonna go out and start a new life together. The plan is clear. Some things could have happened. Somebody got in the way. I don't know. I see your point, Katie, about, you know, did he get hurt? Like, did something happen? Like, I could totally see me doing either one of those. I don't know what my state of, it would be. I don't know what my state of mind would be because I'm all about abandonment. I'm like, oh, abandoned. Well, I guess I'm gonna burn the world to the ground.
Which he does. I mean, yeah, he definitely is. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there's something really interesting just about the dynamics of that, like the results in here. And then I love what you were saying about the filling in the blanks, because I think maybe that helped me kind of think about this line of he dumped you, of other people filling in the blanks of what happened. Because we saw what happened and we're still doing like, you know, what's going on and what are the motivations and what were the choices? And someone else who gets all they get is this very little information of Steed and Blackbeard at one point together and now not. Oh, Blackbeard dumped you, obviously. There's no way Steed is walking away from Blackbeard. So again, maybe that's what I was trying to, like, the initial thought was like, is it a dump? Is it a dump? But no, it's Auntie and Susan are saying it. And Alawande's kind of there. So yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense for other people kind of just getting parts of the story, because we're getting all of these parts and still can't make sense of it. So yeah, how do you interpret that? And we're all kind of doing it in our own way. But if you get even less information, it just becomes oh no, Blackbeard walked away from this. There's no way that anything else is possible.
I think it's interesting too, like, because from a world perspective, there's like who's in your league and who's out of your league, right? And this idea of like Blackbeard and the kind of pirate Blackbeard is, and Steed, like the world's going to look at it as like, oh, dude, he's way out of your league. He dumped you. No matter what happened in the relationship, we're going to all write it as he dumped you. But I think when you see Steed and Ed's relationship, Ed kind of feels like he's out of Steed's league. Like, I'm not a gentleman. I am not landed gentry. I am not, like, I might not even know how to read, if we're going to be honest. And like Ed might feel out of Steed's league. So it doesn't really matter what happened behind closed doors. The story that's going to be written and for everybody else is like, he dumped you. And kind of similar to that idea of Steed in episode 10, when he's like telling the story of Blackbeard and he's like, he's a lovely guy. Nobody wants to hear that story, Steed. So he like demonizes Blackbeard for the enjoyment of this gentleman audience. And that kind of is, just what's happening again.
No, that's really good because that's like both Anna's comment and yours are helping me bridge to the next step where we try to find it in our own lives. Because I'm like, I don't have a good dumped, like, I don't know. But this is like these stories that we have only partial information. Now that I can get behind, like, we all have situations like that.
Yeah, I think that what do we do when we have to fill in information, right? Because everybody has, I think that's where we're going. I think that's a good way maybe to frame this is what do we do when we fill in the information? Steed has to fill in information. Auntie fills in information. They're all filling in information. And what is that story they fill in with? That's interesting. And so maybe how do we see that where we fill in information where you don't have everything?
Yeah, you can't help but do it to get by, right? That's just how we do. But to maybe recognize, I only have a slice of this information and I totally could be wrong.
I do it all the time.
We have to.
It's how we're wired.
Yeah. Now, do you get a lot of enjoyment out of it and you like make it all up or is it just like
I had characters and chapters and an appendix, an index. You can find everything. I got it all figured out. Jokes.
And a soundtrack.
Yes. Oh my gosh, soundtrack. Talk about that. Yes. Yeah, I gotta remember the soundtrack.
Yeah, I think, I like that because it's just how our brains are made. Like our brains are not able to hold on to every single detail. We think we can. And it's similar to how, you see out of two eyes, but then you actually can't see what's right in front of you. Your eye is just filling in the gaps of like, well, this is what should be there. So that's what I'm going to put like in what you experience as sight. And similar things happen with our memory that we have gaps. We're just holding on. It's like hooks, like you're getting little pieces that are strung together, but you then thread it. And now you kind of have all of this stuff that connects it and smooths it out. And that's not what actually happened. That's simply a perception. And then the retelling solidifies it over and over and over again. So, however many people you have in a situation, that's going to be however many stories there are about what happens. And so I do like that this makes me kind of think about those moments of the stories that I tell about my life, and recognizing that in reality, how much of that is true. And in a sense that other people will agree with the interpretation. Maybe that's the thing, like the facts maybe are there. But I think to your point, Katie, about in the experiencing and then the retelling, even if it's just to yourself, we absolutely believe it. And I think sometimes we attribute to other people that they're lying or they're trying to put themselves in a good light, or they're not really facing the facts. But I'm telling the truth. Like I'm actually accurate. It's just other people who are kind of like being lazy when they're retelling. And so that's what it makes me think of like Steve trying to hold on to what he believes is truth and everyone else at the same time, like having and again, these are all interpretations of what's happening. And so it's interesting. There's so much happening so quickly in just these couple of lines of everyone's kind of revealing their story. And you're not necessarily going to be able to change anyone's mind because this is just how human brains work.
Well, this seems like a really powerful thing. So my thing that I'm thinking about for the future is to grant more grace to remember more, to give myself more grace and give other people more grace in the way I remember things. Because I'm probably going to remember it wrong anyway. So do it in the best light with the best intentions for everyone. Because it's all going to be made up anyway.
I was also feeling called to do something, and I don't really want to say it because I don't want Ben to hear this episode and go, but our dear Ben that we love is a very, ardent follower of Stoicism. And this way of thinking about situations that have occurred and situations that are occurring feels very stoic to me. Like, just don't make it so personal. Make it very much like the obstacle is the way. Thank you, Ryan Holiday. And think about experiences that happen, things that I hear about in a way that's filled with grace, but also that in a way is ultimately helping you grow as people. that's a bad explanation of stoicism, but yeah, it just makes me feel like I want to revisit some of those stoic ideas.
Yeah, I would say I feel called to let other people have their stories, thinking about it from Steve's perspective instead of trying to fight it. Like, yeah, sure, he dumped me. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine if that's how you interpret what happened. Like, that's okay. Like, what does it really matter? So yeah, I think looking for those moments when I can just let people have their story, like really, it's fine. That's how they see it. Who am I to say that they're wrong about it or that's not, when you're laying out the facts, as we're kind of experiencing, like it's so hard to kind of tease out, well, what exactly is it that happened and why did I do that and the other person's part? So yeah, can I just let other people say, yeah, he dumped you. Okay, that's fine. Maybe that is true for you. Again, it's not really my business, I don't think. That's my call to action.
I really like that because both with Anna and Katie, yeah, it's very much feels like a very stoic idea where it's just um basically like let people have their thoughts and opinions and stuff. It's fine. Everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, but don't let it be a personal thing for you because you have control over what you feel and what like I don't know if Steed really knows but with the idea with that idea, yeah, it's what it like, the truth, how you feel. Don't like let other people necessarily waver like those ideas, but also just be understanding. Like Alexa saying, like be understanding of everybody's thoughts and feelings, or because we don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'll take kind of like because what I was pulling at because it made me think of this mantra that I have, which is what I was just looking up. This I am a powerful creator of my own life experience, and I can choose how I respond to the world around me. And so that's what I was just hearing as we were taking this apart is that everybody has their own version, which shows we can create that. And I like that Steed is creating, we were on a break because that means he's open to whatever. That's how he wants to show up when he has this moment that he hopes is coming with Ed someday. And I love that is like, I'm going to choose to think that instead of he dumped me or I dumped him, because that's how he's going to show up when he reunites as they hope that they will. And I guess that means that then it's calling me to think about, I think, other people's stories and remembering they've got theirs. And then also I am going to create this experience for me. And so remembering there's all these different stories can then maybe empower me to choose intentionally my story and give up my crappy first draft. As I then move on to like, okay, now what story do I want to take on? And remembering there's so many different stories that's going to be really powerful for me to really think about and like answer that call. Cause I forget that even for myself and what I want to choose. And I think then that will also open me up into the compassion for other people's stories and be like, cool, not only do they have their stories, but now I have all these I can choose from. And here's the one I'm going to choose, and just be intentional about it. So that's what I'm going to be called to do.
I feel like so much of my faith choices come back to Life of Pi. And your comments remind me of that. It's like, there's all these different stories, and what's the one that's going to give you love and hope? And one's the better story? Choose that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that because then those two comments make me think of Blackbeard with the tattoo on his back, where he not only has the story, but he's like, I'm going to tattoo it on my very like, again, that's a survival choice, but are you locking yourself in? And I love this idea of like thinking about this as creativity or empowerment and possibility, but yeah, like, can you be flexible and can you hold that loosely? Can you really hold it loosely and keep yourself open to other possibilities as things change and shift, and maybe find, maybe not super optimistic hope, but can you find like an element of hope in it? And maybe again that goes back to what the Impossible Bird story is at that very end, where you start with the tattoo and then you end with the story, where he's really kind of trying to explore this idea. So yeah, just bringing all the things together of it's going to be okay, but you also kind of have to help yourself remember that along the way.
Yeah. I think we did a lot with this line. Good job.
Yeah. Good job. Like the text. We now get to bless characters or other elements of the story, because sometimes they're not characters. But I'm going to bless Fang. Oh, my heavens. Fang, I love you. I love that you whimper because you just don't even know what to say anymore. And you can't even eat your cake. Better things are coming, Fang. But bless you.
I am going to bless Frenchie. Bless Frenchie. Trying to make the best of it, putting thoughts in boxes, really compartmentalizing, trying to just enjoy the cake that's there in front of you. And then you get called to this job and you get this promotion that you're like, oh no, I don't want don't want this. And I've seen how it's gone for other people. But also really trying to do his best. And then we see more of that in episode 2, where he's a good first mate. He's really showing up for this crew, and he's prioritizing the crew and what the crew needs. He's really looking out for other people. But yeah, it's rough going, and bless Frenchie.
I think I'm gonna bless the Swede because I find the Swede kind of sweet in all of this. He, first of all, it was cute that he's kind of, it seems like he is kind of realizing himself with the help of Spanish Jackie. And he's actually really liking where he's at. And then on top of that, he still helps out his crew, the crew and everything with trying to get some money back. So I bless the Swede, and I hope this relationship with Spanish Jackie goes well because it seems like a positive effect on him.
I'm gonna bless Izzy because out of survival, Izzy made a lot of choices and thought, this is how I'm going to survive. And now he's in it. And not only is he suffering for himself, he's suffering as a good first mate would do. He's very empathetic and compassionate to what is happening with the crew, and what is also happening to this person he really cares about. He really, really cares about Ed. And it's interesting that he expresses his love and affection for Ed. And I wonder if Ed feels like he's being manipulated in that point, which is because Izzy's never maybe said that before. And Izzy's like, well, let me take talk it through as a crew approach. Let me take the affectionate approach because that worked with Steed. And he's trying everything now. He tried bringing the Ed back that he thought should be. He's now trying to protect the crew and advocate for the crew. And then also trying to help Ed, and then trying anyway, and then physically is in pain. And so now from being shot. So bless Izzy.
The thought that I had was that the Swede had a really difficult dilemma. Do I fulfill my blood oath, whatever he had, right? Life debt. Or do he's the happiest he's ever been in this relationship with Jackie. He doesn't want to put that into jeopardy. And he totally has to make a really hard decision. And he makes a decision not happily. And luckily it works out for him, right? But I just wanted to bless people who maybe are in a similar situation and it's not going to work out that way. And sometimes relationships, you have to make the best moral decision. And you might make a decision that ruins a relationship instead of makes it better. So blessings to those people in connection to the Swede. Until next time, when we can talk it through as a crew.
To reiterate, we are doing great.
It can't be worse than you moaning Ed, oh Ed, all night long.
You don't really seem fine.
I mean, buttercream isn't everyone's thing, though, is it?
I'm totally down for that. I love soup.
Join us next time for our discussion of Season 2, Episode 2, through the theme of forgiveness.